Good evening, everybody. It looks like everything is actually working this time, which is a nice change from the last Creative Crunch I did. Let me tweet this sucker out under the X post, and we will get moving. Tonight, we're going to be talking a little bit about some of the things that we identified from Warhammer 40K 2 weeks ago, and we're going to be looking at possibly a new IP, just a new concept. It's not like hard and fast that we're committing to this thing. It's just kind of a fun thing that we're trying out. So with that in mind, I've got Mage Leader here and TJ Marquis. Mage is a author and YouTuber. Tell us just a little bit about yourself, Mage.
Yeah, so I run a channel here on YouTube under the same name. I'm a big fan of 40K. I'm a bigger fan of Battletech. That's what most of my content centers around. So if you like giant robots and other such cool things, you can follow me over there. I've got other social media as well. Written a Western novel, working on a few more. So there's plenty of good content out there.
Absolutely. And I've got Mage's YouTube channel linked in the description. I don't have his book down there, but I will try and find that and
Let me get you a link.
Yeah. Drop a link in the private chat and I'll get it.
Yeah, I mean, the same.
Added. And TJ, if you want to drop whatever your latest creation is there, you can do the same. But in the meantime, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about.
Cool. I am also an author. I have my YouTube channel under the same name. Actually, what is my handle? That's kind of weird. I can't think of it. But my main series is Heroes Metal, which is a band get the band back together and stop an existential threat with sort of Final Fantasy style creeping of stakes. That's the core.
Awesome. Well, and you've been in just a ton of different anthologies. You've been all over the place, including ANVIL.
Yeah.
Which I'll do a
2
quick
Anvils.
shill for.
Well, 3 now.
Yeah, and I was going to say, for anybody who's not aware of ANVIL magazine, it's a collection of indie fiction, art, and comics. You can check it out at anvilmagazine.com. Links are in chat right now and also in description. At the end of this, there'll be a quick ad. The trailer for issue number 4 just dropped, so you can check that out. Awesome. Bat Sauce, that's very cool. Let me get back over to the stream chat so I can see that. Okay, so other people are definitely thinking about 40K these days. And so, there we go. All right. I'm still learning Talk Studio, which is what I'm using instead of StreamYard. So, the goal for what I'm doing, let me drop that link in the chat for TJ. I feel like one of the big obstacles that I felt to getting into 40K, and this is just my take on it, is that I love sci-fi. Sci-fi is really my bread and butter. But Warhammer is very much fantasy with sci-fi paint over top of it on not all the factions, yes, I would say, but on lots of them. So my twist here that I propose that we kind of take a look at things is let's do the inverse. Let's think about some of the biggest and most notable science fiction tropes and smash them into either a Sword and Planet or a more fantasy setting. So, just throwing it out there. Let's, my pitch to you guys is let's take something like Niven's Ring World and imagine that we've had kind of a return to Sword and Planet, but with, for whatever reason, a bunch of different factions. Because I feel like one of the key components of 40K that we didn't really identify, but is kind of a given, is that there's lots of factions. You want to have different even sub-factions and things like that. So you need to have a lot of space, a lot of things going on. And out of curiosity, I looked at how big a ring world would need to be an Earth-like environment, and it would be the equivalent of 300 million Earths in terms of surface area. And I think it would be like 20 or 30 Earths wide, even if it's just like, a tiny little ribbon going through the solar system. So does that sound like a fun jumping off point for you guys?
Yeah, I like it.
It's gonna depend. I'm a bit unqualified to do hard sci-fi.
Well, it's not hard sci-fi. We're going to be doing, I'm thinking about we're taking tropes here. We're not trying to make it make sense. We're actually going to be kind of creating more of a fantasy setting.
You're gonna soften it.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very, really soft sci-fi in my opinion.
Okay.
And lean towards everything is, kind of magical. Maybe there are some people who understand the technology, but kind of like the Adeptus Mechanicus, right? So they are the kind of tech priests and things like that, or Comstar. These things to me are a heavy dose of fantasy in a science fiction setting, and I think that is kind of like the absolute hardest. That's the absolute upper limit of sci-fi. You know what I mean? Or of the hard sci-fi to my opinion. And then from there you can go more magic and let's be real. If we're playing around with something 40K ish, the orcs can paint things red and make it go faster. So let's not pretend that we need to have a some kind of BS quantum theory for why something works, and just have it be fun. So is that I mean, it was funny because TJ was just messaging me earlier this week about I forget the property that you were talking about that you'd been thinking on, and kind of inspired something that you were thinking of, and it's very Sword and Planet. And I was like, that's fine. And I was like, this is funny because we're going to be talking about this on Saturday.
Yeah, that was Scavenger's Reign.
I like the idea. It will be a missed opportunity if we don't incorporate a little bit of Treasure Planet vibe into it.
Absolutely. In what way, as far as Treasure Planet vibe?
I think the whole thing there, it's this capturing of an older time period in a science fiction sort of setting. So you've got that sort of 17th century piracy and swashbuckling adventure, but it's a ship, but it's a special sci-fi science ship.
Okay, and that's another thing I had originally thought to myself. Imagine that it's just on a single planet. What would you need to have? You'd almost by necessity need to have islands and ships. So I think that's perfect. So I would say things like age of, what is it, like the Age of Sail?
Yeah.
And then all the way up to maybe like Ironsides and things like that.
Yeah, like Ironclads.
Ironclads, yeah. That is some small font. Maybe I'll just zoom in on it. But we can do some kind of notes about like general features of the setting. Why can I not just grab that? There we go. I have to wait. I have to be a little bit more patient. So I'd say also that we're going for let's also talk about a couple of things as far as and it doesn't have to be a ring world. I was just saying I think that there's ways to tinker around with the concept of having a planet or a world big enough that it's just functionally endless for what we were wanting to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And Kongilian had a comment here of, there's going to be a lot of golden age of the solar sail and things like that. Holy smokes, I could see it in YouTube, but it doesn't show up on stream or on Talk Studio. Anyway, sorry, I see your comment there, Kong. It's definitely going to be one of these things where we'll lean towards the Asimov truism of any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, which I kind of take issue with, but I don't want to get into right now. Let's
We can make
do
it
you
true
guys-
for our purposes.
Yeah, for our purposes. So we'll just say we'll just say that for now. What's you guys anything else popping off in your head at the moment, or you want me to just keep rambling until you get something that's
When piracy came out, that made me think. It just kind of popped in the idea that maybe the technology, some of it at least, could be maybe grown, and in order to replace and repair things, since nobody knows what they're doing, one method to do that would be to steal, harvest, and then transport it.
okay. So when you're talking about technology like grown, are you talking about like an organic tech, or are you talking about like going out and like retrieving
Organic
tech and
nanobots?
okay.
Those two things just kind of collided.
Well,
and
I
popped up.
think that to me, I think some of that would also be, I'm going to say kind of like journey, and fight for tech over here, because I think that would be like a good driver for conflict in general. I definitely think kind of an organic. My God, what am I? This T? I guess I have to hit T every time I want to write something. This kind of segues into something that I was thinking about with factions, right? So to kind of get feels for what I'm thinking of, rather than like the orcs are like a very transparent fantasy to sci-fi example that was with very little sci-fi paint on top of them, right? It's I would say they're probably the most untouched straight fantasy thing in 40K. Although maybe I'm wrong, but the like a good example of what I'm thinking of is, for example, the Eldar, right? Instead of having kind of like a forest world where they live in the trees and do all the normal lame elf things. Yes, space dwarves, 100%. Yes. But we need to think about that in some way. So if we want to have like organic tech, nanobots.
I would give that sort of thing in a limited capacity to a specific faction. And
Sure.
as
But
kind of
what
their
I'm saying
flavor
is,
thing.
let's have you guys seen SG-1? You guys Stargate fans at all?
A bit. It's
Okay.
basically just a not as good version of Star Trek TNG, but it's okay.
Well, that's hurtful, because Star Trek TNG didn't have P90s, but
Neither did SG-1 for like 99% of the
well,
episode.
you know what? It doesn't matter. They still had them for some, which is you divide by zero rule here.
Phasers are cooler.
Anyway, we could talk about something kind of like so let's look at like the replicators. How would you fantasy up the replicators? Those would be like a bug swarm, right? So to me, do you think that's like a good analogy kind of thing? Like we could figure out something like that, because I'm thinking like we take things like for example, oh my God, I keep forgetting, resets my tool every time. So the Predators, right? That's an iconic sci-fi. Oh my gosh, this UI is killing me. Alien, right? I was kind of thinking, for example, lizard people, but we kind of take a twist on the standard lizard people formula and bring in some of whether it be you get the little extra mouth in there. They have acid blood. Maybe they've got a hive mother that lays lots of eggs. Wait a second, xenomorph. Yes, xenomorph. I get it. Yes.
We knew what you meant.
Yeah.
Yes, but
Maybe they've got massive jugs.
Are you referring
massive.
to Space King?
Oh, I haven't
Not
seen
at
that
all.
Okay.
yet. So, let's see here. What is a what is a good space dwarves?
So
What is a good analog to space dwarves that like
I have had a concept in my mind for a faction like this for a while. So let me break it down. So the idea is that it's similar to fantasy dwarves in that they are obsessed with mining resources and crafting it into weapons and finer materials. It's all about the harvest and the craftsmanship with them. But since you're in space, what do? They go and just anything that's in sight, an asteroid, an entire belt, even somebody else's planet. They're only interested in what it's made out of and what they can dig out of it.
Mhm.
So these guys pull up onto your
Yeah, that's
planet
cool.
someday, and they're like, "Okay, you have resource X under your crust. We're gonna come and take that now," and they just don't bother asking.
So I would envision. So let's say that we're trying to get to if we're trying to get back to space dwarfs, like what would be like something that we can then draw from that. So these would be those guys would potentially be very dangerous.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And just in terms of like breaking things. So
Yep.
if you're on like we don't have to stay on a ring world. That's just an example. But if you are on a ring world and you've got people who just like to dig and disassemble things, like they could strip sections of it down to the exterior core or the
Right.
exterior surface,
Right.
right?
But of course, they're not just breaking; they're also building out of those things. So they're going to be building mega structures. Maybe they could be the ones who, in times past, built the ring world.
Mm.
But in order to build something that big, the resource has to come from somewhere.
Have you have you played Mass Effect?
Yeah.
You remember the weird little green bug dudes that were always on the Citadel?
Yeah. The keepers.
Yeah, the keepers. And I saw somebody who did a really interesting reimagining of dwarves as a kind of like bug monster type thing.
Hmm.
Like they were sort of like larval. They still looked very dwarfy, but they were also very unsettling. And I mean, the thing here is that the Paladin. The one thing is that this is still Sword and Planet, so we're kind of have to like cut down on some of the intergalactic planet hopping, or at least that's my take. Is it's like let's actually we can have cool like sort of sci-fi ships, but they're still at the end of the day going to be like sailing across water. Is kind of my thought. Is that are you guys thinking that, or are you guys thinking like let's have like retro planet hopping in some way or another?
I mean, if you're
Sorry,
in
go
a
ahead.
sci-fi setting and you're not planet hopping, you're wasting your potential, in my opinion.
Yeah, but we're not in a sci-fi setting.
Well, we are though, because we're in space.
No, but
That's-
the idea is that we're taking sci-fi and we're putting it in fantasy.
We're stuck
Whereas-
on the ring world or Dyson sphere or
Yeah,
whatever.
forget about all that. You know what I mean? The idea is that we don't even have to have like a regressed society necessarily. My kind of thinking is that we just use sci-fi tropes to create a fantasy setting. So at the end of the day, it's still fantasy.
Yeah, I don't see much point in starfaring if you're not going to somewhere new. If you're just going to another part of what's already there, it's like the whole point of it is to go out and seek out what you've never encountered before. You're also going to have to explain why all these different things are sharing the same little space. It's so much easier and more elegant to just be like, well, they come from somewhere else, or
Well, I mean, they did.
we're living on
You-
this massive construct that was built by these guys, and now they're just a shadow of what they used to be, but
Mhm.
they're still trying to do the thing, or they maintain it. Maybe they've got a fleet of ships that goes out to collect the resources, and no one else really understands how they get out that far, and they're insular and don't want to share that tech, kind of like the Spacing Guild and Dune,
Mhm.
something like that. But I mean, there has to be other places to go. There really does.
Well, that's kind of what I was saying, is that like there's concepts where you can have planets so huge that you can have uh you know, like you could conceive of a world so huge that if you wanted to retain the fantasy, so that you're not necessarily like saying we're using a portal to stargate around, right, or something like that,
Yeah.
then um the idea would be something like everybody was on the ring, right? And so different sections of the ring are controlled by different factions, and they're fighting over key islands, key control points, things like that.
Yeah, at
Um,
the scale of the ring world, as you mentioned it, like you would never run out of places to go and battles to have.
it's sort of
That's
like
so big.
inconceivably
Yeah,
large.
It'd be
if we're-
kinda like
if you're gonna-
growing-
If you're gonna do that, I'd cut the spacefaring out entirely, because there's really no.
I never mentioned spacefaring, is what I'm
Well,
saying.
we did though. We were talking about like the whole our treasure planet thing. The ships out in the.
Oh, I was talking about kind of like the inspiration, like style wise.
Okay. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Like that we basically cut that entire thing. I think it's a missed opportunity, but
Yeah. Well, but the problem, see, my thing though is that 40K is very much already that. You know what I mean?
I mean 40K is not. It's not about. It's about surviving as everything collapses, as opposed to a more
sure.
a more
I know,
hopeful,
but I'm saying like in
stretching
terms of
out and trying
style.
to explore. If we're going for that sort of thing, I don't know. It's
I think even with I'm just gonna say ring world. Dyson Sphere seems like it would work too, but I'm just gonna say ring world for now. If there's some sort of medium in the center between the that spans like the whole diameter of the thing, then you could still have that sailing aspect, and there might be stuff out there as well.
That
It'd
is
be like
true,
a giant
because
different sort of sea in between.
yeah,
the two.
but I
If
mean,
you're
if you're
gonna have a
giving people the
day-night
means to
cycle.
traverse that, they're going to start wondering what's out beyond.
What's up and down? Yeah, maybe there's nothing, or maybe you can't go. Now, I was going to say that I would be still drawn in the direction of being able to find other places, but I do see the in other words, go to outer space. But I do see the logic in sort of bringing the scale down, because when you take the scale up to the whole like galaxy or universe, then all you're doing with all your mechanics is bringing the scale back down again by having portals and FTL and stuff like that. So it kind of could go either way.
Yeah, I mean, if you have portals, then you may as well cut out the starfaring entirely, because why would you bother taking that route when you can just, it's like why would I ship all of my cargo
and that's
only because you have to get the portals
by
there in the
horse-drawn
first
carriage
place,
when
but other than that-
airplanes exist?
Yeah, exactly. And so I mean, I think so. All right, so let me kind of clarify what I was thinking. I'm still thinking very much a fantasy setting. So it's like maybe there are some factions that have different methods of transportation. Some have actually unlocked the ability to utilize certain portals. Maybe these portals are fixed. My premise is that whether it be like a Dyson Sphere or Ring World or something like that, I think a Dyson Sphere might actually make more sense in a way, just because it's like if you're in the inside of the Dyson Sphere, maybe you have literally no concept that there's anything outside of the Dyson Sphere, and there's just like, it's Alex Jones of the of this world is like, you can go the other way, you know what I mean? If you dig deep enough, you get outside. Everybody's like, oh no, he's crazy. There's nothing out there. Everything is in here, So
yeah, I mean, if you're gonna keep it limited to one location, I say we just make it a planet and nobody goes to space at all, and give them airships instead.
Okay, I mean that's fine with me. I mean, my thing is yeah, that we can do just a big planet.
That would make more sense, because if it is like an inverse a Dyson Sphere, you're going to raise questions of who made it, because
Well,
clearly
that's the whole
clearly it's
idea.
from
You don't
somewhere
need to
else. You
know.
can't. Yeah,
One of the reasons why I said Dyson Sphere, to be clear, the reason why I was thinking Dyson Sphere and Ring World, right, is because one of the key components of 40K is that it's so huge you can do anything, right? You were talking about like, let's do a campaign of killing My Little Pony planet. You know what I mean?
right.
If you're on a planet, you know, if you've got airships, like on the planet Earth, you're probably going to know about My Little Planet or My Little Ponytopia. You know what I mean? Like the kingdom of Ponytown. You know what I mean? So
Well,
I was just
you run
wanting
into
a
that
way to
you run into that same issue if you do Ring World or Dyson Sphere. You just make it really big, but you will hit the end of it. It's still finite.
sure, but
Because that's the appeal of space, is that there is no limit to it. You get like, oh, here's a new planet. There's all kinds of stuff all over the place. And
Mhm.
like anything that you limit on a Dyson Sphere or Ring World, you could also apply to a planet. It's like, oh, it's just really big. We haven't fully
yeah,
explored
but
it
it's
yet.
a matter of scale. I want to do, yeah, I know, Ponytown, right? So that's actually going to be one of the factions. Key factions here is Ponytown.
Oh boy.
No, for now I'm going to kind of try and tinker with the idea of the Dyson Sphere or Ring World for now, and we can figure that out. There's no reason why you can't have airships in a
Now
in a
that
Ring
I've
World.
yeah, well, now that I've thought of it, I'm getting stuck on the dangerous, possibly chaotic. Although I guess you don't want to call it, you don't want to go too much into the chaos. But the dangerous chaotic medium that fills up the sky of the Dyson
Yeah, and
Sphere / Ring World.
yeah, you could even have something.
You could put
to
a
the
ton of
effect
stuff out there.
Exactly. You
scale.
could say something like there's currents. Hold on. Why is this just never letting me? All right. So then,
I
if
mean,
click
I've got
away,
a
it goes
sort of
away.
an idea. Like maybe you could have there's some sort of anomaly at the center of the sphere, right? And it's pulling things in from outside that just kind of show up. That's what the space dwarves harvest. Then they use it to maintain the sphere wherever they can. But nobody knows
Yeah,
how it works, and it's only one way. It only brings stuff in, and you never know what's going to show up.
that could
That could
certainly
be
work.
what makes the travel turbulent,
thing
because it's
is just
pulling
not
in
working at all?
asteroids or maybe smaller planets.
Mhm.
Sometimes they bump into
Well,
each
and
other.
that's one thing about a Dyson Sphere is that you know it. Yeah, I think I desynced there. Yeah, there it is. It says test. Um, um, uh, let's say interstitial. I don't think I spelled interstitial correctly, but we're not going to worry about it.
That's correct.
Really, I'm impressed. So we'll have something like that. We'll have the. Are you okay? Kind of like doing keepers in a like keepers space dwarves kind of have like a keepers. Is that viable? Kind of like the concept. They're bringing stuff in.
Yeah, yeah. Like they're the maybe in times past they built it, but they don't remember. All that stuff is kind of like lost to legend and history, and now they just maintain what's there. Basically, a constant patch job. I actually like that idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
So-
digging
These are
dwarves.
still the guys who will show up at like maybe you're mining an asteroid for something, or trying
Yeah.
together. They show up
Or
and they're like,
sure,
actually,
yeah.
we need this, and you now have to leave, or else we're gonna smash your stuff.
Yeah,
That's a
or
good
if
point.
someone else builds a mega structure and they don't like it, then they strip it for parts and build something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or
So
they show up
it's-
in your town and say, we need wood, and your houses are made of that.
Yeah, so it's maybe we could even say like there are some like old spaceships.
I mean, if it's pulling stuff in seemingly at random from outside, like you could get space hulks and things that are almost impossible to understand. It'd be really cool.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a book by Frederick Pohl called Gateway, and it's got some weird stuff in it. it explores the idea of sexuality when people are locked up in a tiny ball for like 6 months at a time. But if you ignore all that weird stuff, he has some interesting ideas about essentially humans find a hub ship, and then there's all these little pieces of, or like sub shuttles, if you will, that just go somewhere, and nobody knows where they go, and so people just take contracts to get in them, and they just go for as long as it takes. And then when they come back, they document where they went, you know? So I liked the idea of humans being kind of like monkeys, just sort of whacking this, this high-tech wonder with a stick and throwing themselves into the meat grinder to figure out what it does. That's kind of a feel that I'd like to go for with some of this, you know? Maybe the older the tech, the more dangerous it is, generally speaking.
I like the idea of maybe loading up a ship with something on one part of the sphere and transporting it to another, but through a medium that is totally unpredictable and needing some sort of either magic or technology to safely navigate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the high risk is important.
You give rise to like a special class of people that way, and then of course that opens the door for incredible wacky piracy sorts of things out there as people try to steal the goodies.
You've been playing what is it, Crimson Skies?
Yeah, Crimson Skies.
Yeah, you know, you get the space, or not the space, but the sky pirates, right?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So you got to have all these different things going on. So I mean, aside from we kind of have like a replicator inspired, and we won't address how everybody got onto the Dyson Sphere. Maybe it was Resort World. Maybe everybody decided this is where we're all going to go hang out, and then something happened and everybody got mass amnesia, 10,000 years ago or something.
It's been so long that everybody has their own origin story for how they got there, and no one knows which one is right.
Yeah, I think time can do the work on that.
Yeah, I'm going to say like unanchored. From time. Varying origin stories. So let's flesh out a couple of the faction concepts and things like that. We can do like kind of the replicator nanobot types. So they're maybe they can usually be partnered. What do you think, TJ? You were talking about the organic tech. Maybe that's not a good direction, because as I'm thinking about it, I think that defeats some of what you were probably going for. Tell me where you were going with that thought-wise.
I was just thinking of, I already had sort of homed in on this being something that's been there for a long time. Nobody knows what anything is anymore. And so maybe part or, significant portions of it just grow. Mm-hmm. We don't have to say whether it's organic or literally just nanobots. It could be some other form of technology or in our case, magic that nobody knows anything about. But one way or another, this stuff regenerates itself into its, the expected forms, whatever those are, whether it's weapons or structures or factories or whatever. And so some things, maybe the only way to get a hold of them is to harvest this from the stuff that grows and then transport it somewhere else.
Do you want to play?
So that could be part of a faction, or that could just be kind of the way things work, part of the environment.
Kind of a la Horizon Zero Dawn to a certain point, in some factions. I'm going to move this out of the faction zone and into silence. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, then you could also have the organic style faction or race where everything they do is grown, like the what's the race in Star Wars, the Yuzan Vong, right? They have like organic tech.
Yeah,
I don't know, it sounds like non-canon Clone Wars shtick to me.
It's what do they call it?
Oh,
I'm
EU.
blanking on so many things. Yeah, EU. Yeah.
Oh, so even
I
less.
was thinking
canon.
Legends, but that's the name they gave it now.
Yeah.
That's not the old name.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I'll defer to you on that one because
I think
Jeepers.
there definitely should be some that are like more, more organic oriented than others. Let me check here real quick.
Yeah, I mean, like the elf type race
Mhm.
could be much
Well,
less human.
that's
you know,
one
they
thing.
could be more
I
like
want to make sure that we pull like a specific sci-fi influence before we slap a fantasy trope
fantasy
on top of
one.
it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I want to avoid the idea of being like we need to start with elves and then find something like. To me, I was thinking like going back to like the xenomorphs as lizard people idea. I think that would be like a good concept for like a strong and then mostly pull kind of some of the more stereotypical savage they might have what would you call it, like once you hatch, like it's sort of every lizard for itself to a certain degree. So you have a level of savagery there, and then like with predators, I'm not sure what. I mean, I feel like those are definitely bad dudes. Like, because you want to have like some more stereotypically good factions, some more stereotypically evil factions. So, I mean, let's think about this. Are predators kind of like a dark elf in a certain sense? I would say.
I compare them more to things like, well, I suppose that's kind of like a dark elf, but I compare it more to like the idea of Tolkienish orcs or urukai.
I was gonna say like a beast man of some sort.
Because,
Yeah,
like,
even though
I mean,
they don't have
the
animal.
urukai are technically just an offshoot of elves if you break it down in the lore there, but yeah, kinda.
So, what do you guys dark elves or like beast men? Because I mean, you could kind of take beast men in a number of directions.
Yeah.
If we're
Well,
going for like a
Predators
I
are
see why you're saying
sophisticated.
dark elves.
They have a very sophisticated culture and society. It's just one that's beyond human understanding. So I'd say dark elves is more apropos.
Yeah. So that can kind of draw some of the stylized, and we can have sort of maybe some. I mean, they have like very strong voodoo sort of symbolism in the movies anyway, right? So we can kind of have like a more voodoo magic theme there, kind of like that, like because they use parts of the dead. They are very interested in death and like
Yeah, maybe their
proving
trophies
yourself.
are actually become talismans.
Yeah. Do something like that. And then, so let's see here. I had a note somewhere from myself about like iconic pieces of science fiction and things like that. I think like as far as like major tropes and things like that, I feel like a faction, we would be remiss if we did not have some kind of Star Trek representation, some kind of Star Wars representation. Now, I feel like the easy route on Star Wars is they were literally talking about space wizards with laser swords. So I mean that seems
You have
like
to have
easy
space
mode.
wizards anyway.
Yeah, I mean you could kind of have maybe some more monk influences, but I don't know. What are your take on? Anybody have any thoughts on either one of those franchises?
So, I mean, with Star Wars, if you want to go with the sort of Force user route, maybe they have some sort of connection with the anomalies, and they're you can have them be also kind of like the Spacing Guild, where you need these guys to safely traverse the area outside the ground level.
So kind of more
So, like navigators,
yeah.
because they have a sort of psychic connection with the anomaly. They can see things before they happen. They can safely navigate the ships. You need one of them on one of your ships, so they maybe don't
Yeah.
necessarily have one allegiance.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
know
they
what?
could also be multiracial.
Well, I know. I think also. I mean, we have kind of different factions, but we also have different races. And I mean, one thing that is very obviously baked into the 40K world is the sort of racial component of it, right? So like orcs are orcs, and the humans are humans, right? There's sub factions. You can get into that, but I mean, we could potentially also have kind of like vocational like guilds rather than races. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And I see Sword Rush made a comment about space samurai wizards, and I think I would say actually with uh, a strong samurai look. You know what I mean? Because then
yeah.
you kind of have,
Yeah.
and then you have warriors.
Right, because people who have that sort of ability are going to be valuable not just for navigating, but they're also going to be pretty darn good in combat and strategy.
Well, yeah, but they'll also need lots of people to protect them potentially, right? So they
Right,
can have
they're
you
they're
know
a force multiplier,
it,
multiplier.
yeah, exactly. Haha, I get what you did there. But um, let's see here. I'm gonna make a comment about that of the yeah. So well, I'll say guild. All right. So we can tinker around with that. Um,
Yeah, it could be interesting to have some mixing.
exactly.
I want to say before I forget, it just popped another thing that just kind of popped in. Perhaps the golems are the creations of the dwarves, but they're on their own now.
Oh, yeah, we could
You
give
know,
them,
And there
sort
could be
of
there could be noble ones, and then there could be evil ones,
like the Geth,
like the Who.
the Geth
from Mass
from
Effect.
Mass Effect. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, they're made
I
by
admit
the
I've never played Mass Effect.
Quarians.
You
Is that?
man, you gotta play Mass Effect. It's good.
Yeah, you should play
I
Mass
actually
Effect.
have. I think I have it.
I think it's the Quarians that made the Geth, and they went rogue, but
Mhm.
they're not entirely evil either.
Okay.
Yeah. We can also kind of leave it ambiguous. Some think they. Oh, come on.
Yeah, leaving things open ended is great.
I say we give them a sort of either a hive mind or some sort of special means of communication that only they understand, so no one really knows what they're up to.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So maybe they can communicate in with vocal speech, but they can communicate with
They
each
don't
other
have
in a
to.
way no one else can detect. So no one really knows what they're all about.
Yeah. Well, their power source, and then therefore, I guess they're like their computation or whatever would probably be the same thing that powers the planet itself. So
Yeah. So
there's
they would be.
there's an excuse for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they would have reason to think. I mean, I think kind of where I'm going here is, are you going to do this? What the hell? Anyway, never mind.
We'll clean it up later.
Yeah, is that the Terminators and the Space Dwarves are kind of like they're definitely the ones that have been here. If they weren't here the longest, they're the ones who are the most well established, sort of in the sense that they're not necessarily the most common, but they have like a really good idea of who they are and where they came from.
They're like the
And
Eldar and Necrons.
yeah, and so some of them, some of the you could even have, I mean, you could even kind of have like two factions where one of them, some of the space dwarves are subservient to the Terminators, because I'm like, I like the idea of some of the Terminators think, yeah, we were here first, and actually they were our slaves, and
Yeah,
rather than
I say
the
you can
other
do.
Then they're
way around.
forced to
I say you can
maintain
do
them.
both. Some of the dwarves still use them, and some of them are
Mhm.
slaves of the Terminators.
Yeah, yeah, I like this. So I'm
Little
gonna
little
just
bit of both. So that maybe they fight each other in a similar way to like the Aztecs do, where it's not about destroying so much as taking prisoners back.
yeah. Let's see here.
The
Yeah,
Terminators
that's a good point.
need the
Sorry, go ahead.
special knowledge that the dwarves have, and the dwarves need the extra labor to get their stuff done at a maximum efficiency.
Mhm. Yeah, I was going to say that's a good point about the dwarves because they would understand very well that the overall the resources are finite, and so it may not be the best decision to destroy things all the time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And taking things apart might be better.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole reason they'd be taking things apart is to recycle and
Is to
repurpose
build,
it
yeah.
somewhere else. Yeah,
But in other
exactly.
words, like you said, instead of destroying each other, they just reclaim whatever
Yeah,
was
it's like,
was
well,
the
yeah,
issue.
we can't break all the Terminators because we've forgotten how to build more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and
So
I was
let's go grab some and drag them back with us.
Mhm.
yeah, and also some of it I would say is you know, I envision the dwarves as like Comstar in another, you know, like 5,000 years, you know,
Yeah,
but they've lost the ability to go into space. So they're tending this machine and it's like sending them messages. They think it's working, you know what I mean? It's doing things, but they really don't understand what it is that it's actually doing, you know. Um but they're still like everything has become so ceremonial that it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
yeah.
So if we've got like a Japanese inspired force users type of thing, um, for the Star Wars side of things, um, what I would say here I'm gonna make a comment, but tell me what thoughts do you have about Star Trek, whether it be the Federation? I mean, I feel like the Klingons are already, you know, like once again, those are very very fantasy characters.
You've got the Predators in there. I think they kind of fill the Klingon niche as well. I think that's pretty
Yeah.
close to
Or
Yeah,
could if
Klingon.
they
yep,
don't
yep.
already.
Yeah, but if you want to do something like the Federation, the Federation's whole thing is about exploration and discovery. You could have people who are trying to understand.
Nope, nope. Yeah, sorry.
They're like archaeologists almost. They're poking their noses where they don't belong, constantly trying to find out what's behind everything. Maybe they have some of the more uh, inventive tech around, but
Well, they would be. I would say they'd be like the airships. Um, it's sort of like the airships and explorers. Like,
yeah,
what if we said, okay, so let's think of it this way. There's kind of like two schools of thought with exploration. Right now, we have the kind of like the force users, whether it be like the monks, basically monks and samurai, who might also be competing for that ancient technology that might be appearing, or the ancient resources that are appearing at random inside the Dyson sphere. And you also have the Terminators and the space dwarves. You have the golems and the space dwarves off there. They're also everybody. Those people are all going up. Let's think about like Star Trek, kind of being like the airship and explorer guild, and they're exploring out. You know what I mean? They're like have the impossible task because I mean, if a ring world, the number I saw was like 300 million Earths. I mean, that's a tiny ribbon. It would like we're talking in the trillions of Earth size things here. It would be
Mhm.
literally impossible to map everything.
Yeah.
So, um, you know,
right. They're more interested
Maybe
in
they've
what.
locked down like
Yeah,
the
they're more
core.
interested in the sphere itself. Everyone else is kind of
yeah.
taken with the mystery of where's all this stuff coming from? Is there anything else out there? And they're all like, well, what's here?
Yeah, and I would say this is also the lizard people is more of a surface, a strong surface presence. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah,
As well as maybe the predators and Klingons. they're kind of leaning in that direction as well. Okay, so
with Star Trek,
Ponytown. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just thinking, either maybe a sub faction of them, or another faction like them could be the overly militarized sort of culture.
We do need to figure out. I was gonna say I actually need to step away for just a split second. But what I'm gonna do is I want you guys to brainstorm what sci-fi like trope or popular faction best fits into the idea of like knights. You know, I mean, we got to have some shining armor.
Giant robots.
Giant robots.
The nice get big robots.
Yeah. I mean, what else is there to say about that? Just throw them in there.
Exactly. I mean, that's what BattleTech does. The mech warriors in BattleTech are practically their own knightly order in a way. But much like real knights, they could be sellswords. They could have loyalties. They could have their own sort of little sub factions. They could be all over the place, but they'd be something that people would want on their side.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, your ship is cool. It's got cannons on it and all that, and you're able to fend off pirates. But when they board your ship, well, now you have a giant robot on there to fight them off.
Yeah, it'd
be good for exploring as well to have one of them along to try and handle things that happen. You'd have a sort of, I'd say almost like a secret order of guys piloting technology they don't fully understand.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you could run the gamut of like old tech or old magic bots all the way to, the new stuff. When you guys are talking about this Star Trek inspired faction, I was thinking that maybe their stuff is newer, and I think you said they have, kind of a higher tech level, but maybe it functions differently than the dwarves somehow.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I would say that probably their technology would come from dwarves. They'd be the guys who could build that sort of thing.
Well, we don't need
or
to
had it in the
it
past
down to one type of, you know what I mean? We do not. Here's the other thing. I don't think that there needs to be like one technology. Period. I mean, look at like 40K. It's you have how many different factions and then how many different methods of interstellar travel.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I love just using Magitech in general. And so usually what I'll do, and I have some stuff that I've worked on that's not out, but usually what I'll do is align the type of Magitech with whatever the source is. So there's, often something that works off of blood magic and something that works off of, magic that's tied to the planet, or like other spiritual planes, or there's tons of different sources you could dream up.
Yeah, I mean, I would say our Star Trek faction could probably build something along those lines for themselves, but I would make a special set apart group of guys with their mech suits. Like theirs are super old, they're incredibly powerful, but they don't fully understand how they work. No one really knows where they came from, and the supply of them is finite. So they're very special.
So these are kind of like human mechanized knights. So this is like we're gonna say this is true fantasy BattleTech.
Thereabouts. Kind of the other thing I think is like are you familiar with the vision of Escaflowne?
Yes.
Yeah. So
my wife is she's the one who got me into that one.
Yeah, Escaflowne is fantastic. That's a sort of vibe, especially the visual vibe that I get from them. But a similar sort of thing with BattleTech, where like if it breaks, I might be able to fix it, but I can't replace it if it's destroyed.
Yeah. So
like these are guys who are going to fight to the death, because if their armor is destroyed, they're basically not a worthwhile person anymore. So they fight to the bitter end.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, just like everything else, sometimes there's the old Comstar cache or the Star League cache and things like that. So, you can treat things like that, but you never count on it. You know what I mean? Unless you're in the Grey Death Legion, in which case you can count on it every time you need it. So, or in the Wolves Dragoons. But I don't know. Did Wolf's Dragoons find any Starly cache? Anyway, never mind. I don't want to start.
They didn't really need to because they just came over with
They
Clan
just
Tech
were.
anyway.
Yeah, they brought their own Starly cache with them.
Yeah, and they just never ran out of stuff because it's just like, oh no, we brought some with us.
Yeah, we had so much extra stuff. Anyway.
Yeah.
I love how Ponytown is just kind of sitting there.
They came from
all right.
they came from Clan Wolf and brought the plot armor with them. Oh boy. Are we sure we want to actually go down this route?
You know what? I don't know if I actually want to put very friendly and sentient horses.
I don't. I was going to say
bear woman.
We don't want to get Vosh in the chat here.
Yeah, I don't. You know what? I retracted.
Just change it to angry. It's fine.
We have to be really careful with any sort of sentient animal characters because
we definitely need to have some like uplifted animals. That's David Brin has done like the Uplift series and things like that. So yeah, I don't know.
I mean, once you say that, it's hard to resist dogs.
I was gonna say, like, we're gonna get a very interesting community here if we give them an in. You gotta be. We already have lizard people.
They do have a
we're
lot
cutting
of
it close.
But I want to see the dogs fight the lizards now. Is the thing.
Oh no. They cannot be anthropomorphic. I know.
Yeah,
I know that won't stop some of them, but it'll stop enough of them. I think.
No, there's no
Beastmen is a good way to think of it though, because then they have aspects of the animals, but like you said, they don't have to be anthropomorphic.
Yeah. So we can kind of do something.
They don't have to look like anything. They can just have fangs and ears, you know.
Yeah, these are these are genetic. These are experiments and attractions, and who knows where they came from. But they never mind. I was going to make a never mind. I'm just not going to even go there.
Bearmen.
The bearmen. Yeah, there's obviously got to be bearmen.
Look, my position on it is either do it or don't. Like
yeah, the bear.
Either do it or don't.
As the
don't pussyfoot around it. You're either going to have them.
Yeah,
or
yeah. We're going to do uplifted animals and
all
some
right,
beastmen.
let's go for it.
What do we want to?
We need that meme now with the guy choosing the buttons.
Yeah, there we
go.
Bear
men on both sides.
There we
Except
go.
it's a woman choosing the button.
You're right. You're right.
Which one is less likely to assault you? That's the question. The beastmen or the bearmen?
All right, so we've obviously got bearmen. We need some like uplifted dogs.
Yes, I think that should just be a thing that like dogs in this universe can communicate with people. Maybe telepathically, maybe verbally.
Like they're not even anthropomorphic; they just talk.
No, they're just dogs that you can talk to, have a conversation with.
I think that's what Fiona Wolf has in her setting.
Yeah, that would be
like special dog collars. I don't know. I mean, I feel like it'd be real hard. Okay, listen. I know we're talking about. Let's. I would rather make them psychic because I don't like the idea of a dog trying to speak English to me. With
I would agree. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll just make them.
Or hey, maybe it could be empaths, kind of like in Star Trek.
Empaths. There we go. Empath. There we go. Perfect. That's excellent. Yes, the bearmen are favored by white women everywhere.
Brings a whole new meaning to tying the knot.
No.
I'd apologize, but I'm not sorry.
Okay. I regret inviting you.
You knew what you were getting into.
Do we have other? I mean, we can have just about everything. I feel like if we start going down the uplifted animal and beastmen, we're gonna have everything under.
If you're gonna list it, yeah, you'll end up just putting everything.
But
I would say beastmen just
that
have
anyone in any of these factions, if they're into that at any time, can have one of these as a companion. You know, a pet that is an
at least
empath
uplifted and empathic. Okay, cool.
Yeah, like maybe you've got a pirate character who has a little chinchilla who hangs out on his shoulder, and they make inside jokes at each other.
There you go.
That no one else can hear. So one of them will just start laughing for no reason. I think that'd be awesome.
Okay, we're gonna.
But there could also be a like an activist league of uplifted dogs that don't want to be anybody's pets. If you want
Sure.
to make a whole faction of it.
I mean, sure, but I mean, they'd still just be dogs.
Yeah.
I wouldn't so much call that a faction as like maybe like a minor group out there that
Minor
you could
group,
run
yeah.
into. You wouldn't have it be like a playable race in this area, unless you're doing like a homebrew campaign or something.
Unless they can also be a wizard or something.
You wouldn't write a source book for them. Let's put it that way.
I'm okay. We're careful. We're rapidly approaching giant wolf with sword from Dark Souls territory.
I don't see why not.
You know what? Never mind. Sorry, giant.
Just
on,
throw
man.
it in. Yeah, it's like, why the hell not? Giant empath wolf with a sword.
Okay,
And
perfect.
sad music starts playing whenever it shows up.
There we go. That's perfect. Yeah, and then you got to listen to the translation. It's very sad. You're right, Sword Rush. Don't worry, they already corrected me. So let's see here. Ooh, what are some other major tropes? Let me look at my little list of things. We've got Terminators, Star Wars. We got a little something from Star Wars, Star Trek. We got several things from Mass Effect.
Well, we need to have a hyper militant sort of Starship Troopers type of thing.
Ooh, yes, you're right. We do have to have. What would that go well into? What do you think Starship Troopers would paint well onto in terms of fantasy?
So, well, let's think. It's the idea of exterminating anything that isn't us. We must be.
Yeah.
Everything else is a potential threat. We don't make friends with them unless we're extremely desperate. So this is going to be a sort of. I feel like this would almost be more elvish than anything else that we've had so far.
So we.
I think that'd be a cool inversion if it was the elves on the rampage this time instead of the humans.
I like that. So so the what do you want to say? Well, let's say that the advanced. So instead of dark and light, so let's kind of let's say that it's more like primitive and advanced. You know what I mean? So we could say tech.
The machine
tech.
elves.
Yeah, machine elves. They're that don't go down that path because that takes me in a different direction. I feel like. All right. So they're like a very insular society, and they want to exterminate. They don't like dealing with anybody else. That would actually make sense for the Predator and Klingon as well. So these are kind of like, like they're sort of like the rogue-ish. They sometimes consort with the other, but are extremely dangerous and are still sort of see everybody else as below them and just things to be used for their sort of magics and so on and so
I like what Kungilian has here. Mega cities.
mega cities of them. So
Of course.
That'd be a good one for them, I think. Yeah, they live in mega cities.
like mega blocks from
No. You mean not Lego? No. Get that
sorry.
cheap ass shit out of here.
What am I talking about? What am I thinking of?
You're thinking like hab blocks?
I'm saying Doom. What? No, not
Dread.
Judge Dredd.
Yeah,
Yes.
Judge Dredd. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, sorry. Okay. Aren't those mega blocks? Right?
No, they're mega cities.
Are they mega cities?
Yeah,
I was
but
having,
no,
like-
you're right. Something uses that term in it, and I'm blanking on it too.
Okay.
Oh,
Now
I think of like hab blocks from 40K.
well, it doesn't matter. I think we have the idea.
It's covered.
But so the tech elves are sort of like they're very detached from nature, and neither one is right. He says mega blocks is right, so I don't know. Maybe
I guess a
We're
mega
gonna leave
city would
mega
have
cities
mega
to
blocks
Judge
in
Dredd.
it. If you live in a mega city, you're just right down the mega block. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. How could
I guess
get
that is.
confused?
I haven't actually read Judge Dredd. It's on my list.
Really? It's pretty
Yeah.
good. I like,
I've seen the Stallone movie.
Oh well, I mean that's good, and I like.
Yeah,
listen,
the
I played
building
the video
type is
game.
Mega Block.
yeah. Razor doesn't like 2012 Carl Urban Dread, but I thought it was good. I mean, I
I like
guess it
that
was far away from the source material in some regards, but with Anderson, but I thought it was pretty good, and I liked some of the.
It seems like the kind of
cinematics.
thing would be right up my alley. I've always meant to.
I mean, it's very straightforward.
I walk this mega road on the mega boulevard of mega,
Mega
dreams.
Okay,
Good
hold
one,
on. That's
Edward.
actually going in. What would you say? So they have lots of emo
Culture.
music.
Yes. Yes.
So
They
that's
listen to punk.
emo punk. Yeah. Emo punk. All right.
For a second, I thought.
Oh man,
For
I'm just
first type
imagining
that, I thought you
all
said
these
culture of
all these
Elmo
elves
music.
in
And I
like
was like,
Starship
oh.
Trooper outfits, but also with like the like the emo hair, like the swoop over one eye.
Have it be like
My life is
molded
pain.
into their helmet where it's like a solid piece, like a half visor that kind of angles across one eye. So like
Yes.
they have the hairstyle, but it's like part of their helmet.
Yes, that is what I should do here. Hold on, I alt tabbed because the private chat made a little ping noise, and I was like, "What is this?"
Uh-oh.
Okay. All right, now we're having fun.
Ooh, underwater
so
factions.
We've got a lot of factions. That's important. So we've got the human mechanized knights. We're kind of like light on those, but that's fine.
I can
Star
flesh
Trek
out
as-
those knights. I can flesh them right out.
Yeah, I feel like we can do that.
I feel like we should like take a couple of these that we like and just start
Well,
like-
that's actually what I was about
like
to
split them
say.
up between people.
Well, and that's kind of what I was gonna play around with, which is, come on, I want you down here. Put that up there. So I think if we're thinking about this in terms of fantasy, we've got some. We don't have orcs, but we have like, I don't know. I kind of feel
We
like
kind of
orcs are a
do.
little
We
bit
have those
overused.
predators. That's
Yeah.
They're Klingon orcish.
Yeah. Chaos. I don't know that we have any chaos. Ooh, underwater factions. Well, listen, we are terrestrial supremacists. If you're
I think that's something that we could explore as we go along. 'Cause
Yeah.
we got a pretty good start here, I think.
And I only want to run this for like another 20 minutes or so. So let's play around with maybe a few key stories. So we can take some interesting stories about things. Let's have one of the like key stories that we would start building on be something to the effect of a story about the conflict between the space dwarves and the golems.
Yeah, I was gonna say liberation. There's several opportunities for those type of stories.
Yeah.
So let's pitch a story just real quick. What side of the equation do you want this to be from? Do you want to have the Terminators actually be the sympathetic people who are getting raided in this story?
Maybe not all of them, but I'm feeling a good subset of the golems
Okay, so
who deserves it.
maybe we have the perspective of I feel like it would be difficult to write a golem right off the bat, so maybe ease into something like
I think it would be. I think that sort of thing would be much more interesting as a sort of chicken and egg situation, because it's like yeah, the dwarves may have made the golems, and the golems revolted and rebelled because they didn't want to be treated that way. But they're also, maybe they're taking revenge, or maybe they're dead set on wiping out the dwarves as a result.
Maybe they
And
need to be controlled.
yeah,
Yeah, well,
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
that's where
Maybe
a
they're
lot of
super dangerous and should be
sub-factions-
controlled. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you can kind of have the various sub factions, and maybe there's even sort of like a shadow network of of a few people between the two that are actually trying to make sure that neither side actually succeeds entirely, so that each one of them is working against their own people to a certain degree to try
I think what would be really interesting to
maintain
do
it.
if the golems, like we were talking about earlier, they have that ability to communicate that no one else can understand. Maybe they are sympathetic, but at the same time, every once in a while, they'll do something that seems to challenge what people think of them, and no one really knows what they're actually up to. So you just
Yeah.
give them this air of mystery so that, yes, you sympathize with them, but at the same time, they could potentially, maybe the dwarves had good reason to keep them contained. We don't know.
Yeah.
The dwarves built too greedily and too smart.
Yeah. So I'm kind of
Feeling
thinking,
some AI influence here.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, listen, what is sci-fi without a bajillion AI warning stories and things like that?
There you go.
So I think
Right.
we can
That we can just completely ignore.
yeah, exactly. We can play both sides of the coin. So like, let's have a story kind of about that. We could have I'm just trying to think of a couple key stories that would be like entry points to the setting.
Someone
So
doing a salvage run of some sort,
Yes.
either to
definitely
procure
a salvage
something
run.
or to salvage or
If you
recover
have
something.
somebody out there trying to do a salvage from the anomaly at the center, that is somebody who you're going to be able to introduce our force users. You're
Mhm.
going to be able to potentially introduce some of our mechanized knights that have maybe sold out there as security for them. You can introduce some of the piracy out there. Like, you could have so many things introduced in that particular story.
Yeah, against pirates and the dwarves to reach a Hulk. Hey, JR, good to see you. Congrats on getting to chat with Eric July. I'm sure that was a good boost. I haven't actually watched it yet.
Yeah.
I apologize, but I'll be checking that out before too long.
Now this
And
prompt
thanks
does
again for
bring
having
up
me on the other day. Anyway,
Sorry.
go ahead, TJ.
Bring up the question of how long does it take to get to the core area, or at least close enough that you might find something that it spat out.
I would say
think-
days at minimum, weeks
Yeah.
at best.
Yeah, I would say weeks. And here's what I'm thinking. If you have a Dyson sphere and the idea is that somehow stuff is teleported inside of it, going back to the like world building conceptual whatever, there's some kind of collection method. Literally nobody has any idea how it works anymore, but it sucks stuff from outside of it from somewhere else into the inside to provide resources to continue the expansion, repair, building, whatever. Then it's not like it's going to plop them down right next to the sun where it's hard to get. It's going to probably plop them down at a safe distance from the surface. So,
Yeah. I would say nobody ever really gets to the anomaly because
oh yeah, or
maybe
maybe there could be
it's
multiple
maybe
anomalies.
people there's
You know what I
theories
mean?
as to what it even is. Like, maybe it's in the sun, maybe it's the area around the sun. No one knows exactly where it's at. Nobody's ever gotten that far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if it pops in and out, it may not even be detectable for long enough to get to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There is something that causes these things to appear in the space around the star.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously you can't just go to the center because there's a star there and you'll die.
Mm-hmm. You could also say that
And no, sending them at night won't make it work.
whatever it is, whatever is brought in is immediately slingshotted, so it's it slingshots around the star and has velocity when it comes out.
That's
In
a
other
good
words, it's
idea. So
traveling.
Yeah,
it's,
well, that's part of why it's so dangerous to
Right.
navigate that, especially without one of your force users there.
Mhm.
mhm.
There's their sort of low key precognition is what allows them to steer the vessel safely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I also just since if we are doing Dyson Sphere, we're gonna have to take into account there's no nighttime.
Well, and that's another thing. So I would say the way that they've hypothetically done, day night cycles is that you would have like rotating either you would have some kind of a panel system, right? So
Yeah, okay, I could see that. So like you have like a big panel, so like almost like a half sphere within the sphere that like rotates around and provides
yeah,
shade.
except it wouldn't be. It would be
It would
more
have to be,
like
like,
a
slotted.
bajillion, like a little accordioned, what I mean, like sliced up sphere, so that you would have a
Yeah.
whole bunch, because otherwise it'd
Mhm.
be spinning at an insane rate, or you would have like a year of night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, and you know what? It could mess with people's sanity to be past that spot, because then once you're past the nighttime shade, it's daytime all the time.
Yeah, we could.
Or
We could.
maybe there's a particularly big piece of debris that just hangs out between your area and the sun one day, and now
Yeah.
all your crops are dying, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, emergency
Yeah,
exposition to go
that's a good-
move that out of the way.
Yeah, that's a good reason to have to go after stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so have you guys ever seen Sunshine? I thought that was
I have been outside.
interesting. What's that? Oh,
I've
see.
been outside.
No,
Does that
no.
count?
There's a sci-fi movie that was popular back in, I think, the late, like, I don't know, around like 2008, 9, something like that. But the long story short is that they're like gonna go try and restart the sun, and they're made like a special ship that is designed to get close enough to the sun, but people go a little bit crazy whenever you just look at the sun, and there's nothing but the sun. And so yeah, it's about people kind of having some mental breakdowns in space, which is a common theme.
Yeah, I do like the idea of if you go out into the void, there is no more nighttime.
Yeah,
It's kind of the same as like Arctic exploration. You get up there and just like the sun never sets.
yes.
Yeah, that's really fun. I like that.
So let's try and
The ships can maybe have like an artificial nighttime that they do in order to keep people sane.
yeah. Why can I just not move sometimes? There we go. Okay, so I think. Okay, let's do one thing real quick. I'm gonna go over here and look at this. So I think that we've got we haven't really looked at the aesthetic and vibe of anything. I think rule of cool. I think we've adhered to that pretty quick. Lots of perspectives, huge scale. This hasn't really been tackled yet, but
We've gotten into
lots
some of the aesthetics because we've had sort of like the solar sail ship idea.
we have the emo helmets. That's obvious.
We have the
You're
emo
right.
helmets. We've got the
samurai.
Escaflowne mechs. We've got space dwarves.
Yeah. So
So-
we've got some ideas. I saw somebody a long time ago said something about Art Deco, and
Yeah,
I kind of feel like that would be fun for somebody. I'm not sure who. Maybe for the for the mechs, because then you could kind of have like a more. I think
they do better with a sort of like more traditional medieval look.
Yeah,
they're
that is
trying to
true.
be knights. Our Star Trek faction, though,
Ooh, yeah.
a Star Trek faction would be perfect for Art
Oh,
Deco.
that would be perfect.
The
with Art
battleship is
Deco
shaped
and the
like a
airships.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm actually gonna make a note about that. And then let's see here. Yeah, okay.
I will.
This
I will
is
write
all
the
whatever.
story for the race to the Space Hulk.
Yeah.
I will write that.
Oh yeah. Well, we don't have to like decidedly do things, but I just kind of
Too
want to
late.
make this a
I'm gonna
fun
do
little
it.
thing. Awesome.
It's
Well, I love
happening.
it. And let's give another example, this thing, that's why it's not doing it. We can have sort of a maybe a elf that's mega blocks to go learn with his crazy uncle. You know what I mean? And hunt lizard men, you know?
And hung lizard men.
And
Oh,
hunts-
God.
Oh my gosh.
What a trip!
Oh, what have you done?
Shh, shh. No, nobody saw that, okay?
That was a Freudian slip if I've ever
Absolutely
seen
no.
Oh
one.
my god.
Nobody screenshotted that for sure.
Somebody okay. I was screwing around with Midjourney for one of the IronAge media prompts, and
Stop doing that.
there was a hilarious subreddit that like got memed on, and excuse me everybody, but it was called dragons fucking cars, and it was like just I know, it was a whole subreddit, and people were like, how does this exist? And Midjourney 100% took one of those as root inspiration for one of these things, because it was like dragons in like modern setting, and it was like this dragon hunched over a car, and I'm just like, source, oh god, there's some cursed source material in here. Anyway,
Oh, man. Has that same sort of energy, like, how does this exist? Where it's like, when you type into Google search, I hate it when, and one of the suggestions is, I hate it when I'm trying to study and a velociraptor throws bananas on me. Like, God damn it, not
my search
again.
history must be wild, yeah. Oh dear.
It's like, why is this one of the top 5 search suggestions? How often do people search for this?
Right. Okay, we gotta do something with the and what would we be doing with the Explorers Guild?
Well, have them trying to
discovering a colony of sentient animals. No, living
Ooh.
back in touch with nature.
Discovering
Oh my
a
gosh,
colony
they've
of
killed all the
hung lizard
humans.
men.
No, the beastmen, the animals, uplifted animals have eaten all the people and are now living.
You know what I think would be cool? What if they were trying to dig down, they're following like some sort of ancient ruin they found out in the jungles, and they come across an area the dwarves don't want them to be in.
That's a good idea, because that kind of I think the dwarves is kind of like the bads in a lot of ways. I think that would be a good
Like
twist on things.
everyone needs them, but they also are assholes because
They can be.
like they know what is needed to keep things running, so they're kind of in the right, but at the same time they do so by just breaking everyone else's stuff. And they'll just show up and ruin everything one day, and you'd be like, "Oh, my town's gone."
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good one there. I was thinking there's got to be a few planetoids that have ended up in this place
Mhm.
somewhere out in the medium. So that's another voyage.
Yeah.
Interesting idea.
Well, like we were saying, one of them just like covers up a spot and comes between your area and the sun, and now all the crops are dying.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Someone discovers, or not discovers, someone's dispatched to take care of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Over a
Maybe the dwarves are booked and they can't come dismantle it for them.
yeah, they just don't care.
Well, the dwarves aren't
they
at your
don't want
beck
to.
and call. Like,
Right,
you don't,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. They just they're doing whatever. Like if your little colony's crops are dying, they don't care about that. They care
Mhm.
about the sphere being maintained.
And they have to hire a ship. Good luck, Sword Rush. My folks said that they were able to see some lights all the way down in
I
Arkansas.
tried to look last night. My dad said that they were out. He lives like in the next town over. I went out and I didn't see shit. I was very disappointed.
think I'm
Okay,
too far
so
south.
who else do we have here? We've got we could actually, so we've got a little bit of talk about, we got the race, we got this to sort of explore some of the internal culture there. We got the monks and samurai racing off there. We got
What
the
if we
elf.
have one of the mechanized knights doing a job? He's like sold his sword to one of the other factions, and he comes across one of his old friends of the order on the other side that he now has to fight.
Okay. That works. I feel like we already have a couple with that, but I think it's still a good idea for sure.
We could do it with the samurai as well, because they're also kind of an independent faction that sells themselves out.
Yeah.
So maybe one of them runs into his old mentor or an old friend while they're out there doing stuff.
Yeah.
Or so close to along the same lines, an enemy mine sort of setup. So maybe a beast man and a lizard man have to get out of a pickle together.
No, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's good.
They would, 100%. You know what would be a good one is if we had the beastmen and beastman, or maybe just different types of beastmen. Maybe they don't all get along so well or something like that.
Yeah, they could be super particular about their specific genetic makeup, although, we might phrase it differently since it's fantasy.
Yeah, escape one of the tech elves. Because they would have like absolutely no problem whatsoever with labor camps. And yeah, a giant, and obviously that's where we'd have to have the giant wolf with a sword. No, I think that's like a good number of stories. Let's get like,
yeah, it's a nice little pile.
Let's do like 5 key characters. How about that? No, like 3 key characters, or what are you thinking? Do we want to flesh that out, or do we want to just leave that be? Do we want to call it there? Because we got like 3 minutes left.
I think we should call it here and devote
Yeah.
some actual time to this.
Yeah, because I think that this is fun. I don't know that we want to, like I don't know. I'm not so sold on this. I'm not saying that every time we do a creative crunch that this is going to be an official thing that we must do or something like that. But my goal here was to let me get this thing off of there.
I mean, that's a solid brainstorm.
Yeah, I just think the point of this really for me is to brainstorm something, to have a lot of fun, to bring something that doesn't necessarily go together, take some ideas from something like 40K and create something totally different, and just have like a really fun brainstorm. So I really enjoyed it. Thank you guys for
it was good
for joining me. And man, I'm now like, maybe I will write something for this, and
right.
And it's like, hey, we didn't even talk about the idea of wargaming in any part of this, but there's all sorts of ways that you could apply some interesting dynamics to it. Because one thing that I've always loved about BattleTech is the idea that you could fight a battle all the way from orbit down to the surface, get out of your mechs and go rescue a hostage in a building and get back in your mechs and take back off, So this has that kind of level of dynamic like scale and opportunity that could be really
I think this
fun.
would be a really good tabletop RPG setting.
Exactly. So I don't know. We'll do a little bit of brainstorming. If anybody is watching this and they are excited by some of the ideas here, once again, you are free to do whatever you want with it, as far as expanding on these ideas. Everything else, it's just with that license there. If you want to try and sell something or make money, just holler at me and we can figure something out. Because I think this is fun, and I don't necessarily want to, gatekeep anybody out of it, but I do want to make sure that we can be like, yeah, this is the consistency of the lore, because that was one thing that everybody talked about with 40K, is that while there was a lot of flexibility, what was designated as true remained true until, fairly recently. So with that, I think that's just about it. I'm not sure. Hopefully the ad for issue number 4 of Anvil is going to play whenever I click the end stream button, because it's supposed to be an outro, but I might be totally wrong there. Thank you guys for, yes, I love the mercenary companies. We could definitely take some Roman stylizing for some of that. Anyway, I'm going to be making notes for a long time. Thank you everybody for joining me. Thank you so much, Mage and TJ. Again,
Thanks
just
for
tell
the
us.
invite.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Mage, real quick, tell us again where we can find you and what it is that we can purchase if we want to support you.
Yep. So you can find me here on YouTube. I have a channel that I run here. There's a link to my Patreon there if you're really into that sort of thing. There's not a whole lot of benefits. You can come into my Discord server if you join
There's
up.
lots of benefits.
It's basically just, hey, I like your stuff here. Have $1. So you can support me there. Best way to do it is to buy my book and leave a review. Positive, negative, doesn't matter. All that Amazon cares about is the number of reviews. But yeah, definitely worth a read if you're a fan of Westerns. It comes recommended by Blaine Pardo, Razorfist, and many others.
Yes, sir. All right, and TJ.
Cool. So between Twitter, that's at Habitual Levity, or the YouTube channel, which is Multiverse Books, between those two, anything that's important, you're going to find out. So, yeah. Videos have been a little slow, but, I'm working on it.
Hey, that's all right, man. You were doing the indie scan for a while there, and I greatly appreciated it. I need to figure out a way to help you
it's
do that.
fun to do. Yeah, I just you get a little burnt doing it every week, but yeah.
Trust me, man. I understand. I understand what you mean. So, and thank you everybody who watched and hung out. And Kong Ilian, I appreciated some of your suggestions there. Everybody else, I know some other folks made some good calls here and there. And Sword Rush, thank you for modding everything. And with that, we're gonna see whether or not Anvil issue number 4 trailer plays. If not, good night, everybody.